Okay, hey everybody, this is Grace. I've been inside watching TV today and yesterday. It rained a big chunk of today, but to jump to this, I was watching a show that's new to me. It's one of those medical comedies, and what's it called? St. Dennis, I think. And one of the episodes mentioned something that kind of bugged me. It was somebody was in an ER, and the guy was looking everything up on the, he was Googling it or chat, whatever that thing is. Chat, what is it called? I don't know. But that's what I wound up doing. And they were making fun of the guy, the patient, for doing that. One of the doctors was saying, making fun of the guy. This guy, or people that do that. They said, when did they get their medical degrees and so on and so forth. Now me, I agree. I do, but I still look my stuff up. I still look this stuff up because I have these experiences. And I mean, I know these are characters. These aren't real. It's fiction. But it came from somewhere. And the thought, comes from somewhere. And I wonder if the people who do that consider this. There are people like me who have been to hospital ERs for 2023, 2024, 2025, still never found out what was wrong with me with my navel, that I had a problem with the navel. And nobody's ever told me. They don't diagnose. They don't give me a diagnosis. Usually they don't. Okay. And like the last time I went, the doctor said one thing. Well, the second doctor, I don't think he said anything. I don't think he diagnosed me, but there were two that day. And the nurse, I think I found it on the, what is it called? Oh, what are those papers called when you leave? They have one for, so they have different names for different, like visits. Seriously. You would think that it'd be just simple, but no. Different kinds of visits. They give these papers, exit papers, whatever, but different names for them. Okay, I've had enough of different names in my life for something. But anyway, he may have put on there that it was the same thing, but there was I don't even know what she was, but she did the breathing treatment for me, and she said it had to be her. Okay, because I think there were people standing behind me, and I don't know who was behind me, or kind of behind me. And she said that may have been all that it was, as it is, was just that I needed a breathing treatment. Seriously. I mean, and I used to have those when I was younger. Okay, before I had any of these other problems. So let's see if they're going to give me a diagnosis. Could they make it right? How about that? But me, I look stuff up because I can't get the information from the doctor. Seriously. I have actually had doctors where I asked them flat out, why do I need to take this test? Why do I need to do this procedure? And they refuse to answer. Refuse to answer. And from what I understand, patients have rights. Okay, and whenever they ask a question, they deserve an answer. But these are some. This one was really macho kind of guy, and that doesn't fly with me. I'm not gonna mind you like that woman from 2024, that doctor, female doctor, pointed her finger in my face. That thing, said I was gonna mind her. I don't know where she thought she was. I fired her. And that is how it's put. I thought that was, more of just somebody being, somebody had started off saying being kind of, I don't know, smart aleck in a way. But I saw it in something medical that is, it's on up there. So they were saying that patient has the right to fire the doctor or the nurse. While the doctors have these kind of rights to say, if you don't do what we tell you to do, then we're going to stop seeing you, we're not going to see you anymore because you're going against our whatever. But the patient has a right to fire the doctor. Okay, well, I have. I've stopped seeing the one who's, when I called to leave a message for the doctor as he told me to, and the MA, I'm guessing she was an MA, told me that she was not going to listen to what I had to say. She was only going to go by what the doctor put on the medical records on my last visit. I'd only seen him once. And the short version of this is that one of the things he said, for you to continue taking that medication. I said, how am I going, this is the short version. Like I said, there was more to this. I said, how am I going to continue taking a medication that I don't even have? I've never taken. To continue it? I'm not listening to you, this kind of thing. Okay, when somebody calls to say, and here was the issue, the hospital doctor had given me a prescription. Well, I needed the doctor he referred me to renew the prescription. Okay, and that was that doctor. So I had to tell, him that this needed to be renewed. But no, that MA, I'm not listening to anything you said. She said that right off the bat. She probably got in trouble for something, and she was going to take it out on me. Well, I fired him. I went to see another one. He was the aggressive one. I'm not going to see him, but the hospital doctor said that this patient, this one, is causing problems because she refuses to see the doctors. She's basically fired 3 doctors in a row, and I did. The very first one, before these two I just mentioned, the very first one, he come walking. There's a long story behind this, but he come walking, first time, never seen him before, walks in and says, I can't believe there's nothing wrong with you. There was nothing wrong with me. Okay, there was nothing wrong with me. And, because I had that verified by a doctor. Okay, the one that started all that, verified by him. There was nothing wrong with me. Okay, he said, I can't believe there's nothing wrong with you. I'm going to do much more extensive tests. And that's their whole gig. Okay, they run more and more and more tests and do more and more procedures. I had guessed it, and they proved it. Last year was so horrible. They wanted, plus they like to reschedule. The patient's time and everything doesn't seem to matter. It's all about them. They reschedule. They call, have somebody from their office call and say the doctor needs, or the nurse practitioner, whichever one it is, needs you to reschedule. And I asked a couple of them, I said, so they call me, y'all call me and say the doctor needs me to reschedule, but do you put on there that the doctor rescheduled? Or you put that I did? And I said, well, we don't have that option to say that the doctor did or the nurse practitioner. We have to say you did. I said, because I got chastised before I'd ever seen anybody because the first 2 rescheduled on me. And I got chastised for rescheduling appointments before ever being seen. And she told, yeah, this kind of thing. But I would have really have loved to see that MA that chastised me for something I didn't do. I would really love to have been there when she went to the doctor and then she went to the nurse practitioner and chastised them for rescheduling. Do you hear the sarcasm? But the thing about it is these, I'm a social behavioral scientist. These things are set up like this too. They erect this totem pole. They have this chain of command that's in their head, this totem pole that's in their head. They use totem poles wrong as it is. But, the way a lot of people use, not everybody, but a lot of people use totem poles to say the top person on it is the, king or the biggest one there. The most important person. And the one on the bottom is the least. And they love to put the patient, and I'm not talking just me, I've seen others, They put the patient on the bottom of that totem pole, and I say some of them want to put you under it. And they erect it themselves in these offices. They work in hostile working environments, the one that do this. I have felt that every time. And I worked in them myself when I was a career student. So, yeah, I know from first, I worked as interim office management and saw so much. I was like, oh my goodness. The hostile working environments and the hostility of these people from having to work in close quarters. So close, and just if you have one of them that's kind of histrionic, that's it. One of them that has that attitude of erecting, you know, mean girl stuff, mean boy stuff. Yeah, that is just an awful working environment, and it rubs off on the patient. This is my view. I'm a social behavioral scientist. Over 20 years, I was a career student, both undergraduate and graduate work. I have a clue. So anyway, that's what these doctors do. These people that, you know, they have gone to school. Like this one, more recent one, had bragged about that she fast-tracked and went to school 8 weeks. 8 weeks. And this is a person who's making decisions for me. And yes, they wind up making decisions, and they're not supposed to. Period. But anyway, I skipped a whole bunch, but anyway. So this is, I've been on that medication now. I think today is day 16. Yeah, from a rare health condition. And speaking of making decisions, the medication, I found out it's actually been out 14 years, and not a nary one, as it says, ever told me that it was out. I've had this since I was a child. This particular system has had it in their system since the year 2000, that I have this rare health condition, which I leave out. I don't talk about anymore. I don't mention it. If you guess it and you put it in a comment, it's going to go bleep. Block, delete. But I don't even read them. If I skim, I was a career student. I'm really good at skimming. But oh my goodness. But this is me on this medication this far. Yeah, I like I don't know what day it was. Maybe it was like within the first week. I did a couple videos, and I was so clear that brain fog, it causes its own brain fog, and it's that it causes that kind of thing. I was so clear on that medication. I was like, wow, I hope this continues, because I was clear and on track. That's kind of hard with this brain fog, and and not only do I have brain fog with it, caused by it, it's totally different than I also have brain fog from being diabetic. But this pill fixes both. Yeah, that's not all. It is a physical health condition, but it fixes more than that. It does. It works on. I mean, I don't think there'll ever be anything. It won't be totally fixed, because I have to stay on the medication the rest of my life. Okay. So, but it fixes it as long as I'm on the medication. And that medication is expensive. Luckily, my insurance is paying for up to, well, my copay would be $500, but that's being paid for by one of those cards, you know. Yeah. So, and see, I did the stream of consciousness thing on this one. But there's so much to this. So much has been going on lately. But I have, like I said, I've been watching TV, and I've gotten hooked on that. And I'm kind of glad. I'm like, you know, I need to relax some. Relax. Just, you know, not be so as I was before. You know, there was so much, always so much to do. in my life, there has always been so much to do. And I would always say, when do I ever get to sit down and relax? You know? So that's what I'm feeling these days. Plus, I'm doing a different kind of project I made for myself, and mainly. And, but because they say this transition with this medication of having the problem to not having, to having the problem, the health condition, to it's not going to be a problem. Basically, that's it. But the transition, they said it can get worse before it gets better. Okay, the symptoms that I have with the problem, and it has. Those some of them have, some have not, but some of them have. And one of them is I get tired a lot. Yeah, so, and that's not good, being tired all the time. But also edema, it can cause, and it has problems with edema that had gone away. And what else? Oh, and weight gain. Yeah, weight gain. Oh, the last thing I needed. Yeah, it's gone more than it had before. So I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And it's not that kind to diet off. Nope. A lot of it's the water weight. Plus just the changes with the two things it's blocking, and it's got to work itself out. It's really, there's so much information on it. But that joke about that was that patients read stuff and then they think that they know what they're talking about. They think they know what the they're like, suddenly they have their degrees. You know, that joke on that sitcom. Well, when they're not telling you, let's roll back to that. When the doctors aren't telling you anything and you have to look it up yourself, I prefer to read anything that the NIH says. It's the gold standard. Okay, National Institutes of Health. That's what I read. I read what they say. I Google the question. It pops up NIH. I read it. Okay, I'm on my GRE, that was a long time ago, GRE, the analytical part, they bragged about my scores. They said they had the test proctors. They said they never had anybody score that high on it. That's the analytical part is about being able to read and comprehend and understand and make the right choice, so I don't doubt my views when I read something. Seriously don't. Plus, one of my things in graduate school was to study postmodern. We called it back then postmodern speak. As Bell Hooks, rest in peace, said, it's the language of the educated elite. And trust me, it is tough to read. Very, very tough. And there's so much irony in it. Yeah. Just a lot of irony in reading it and then saying you understand it. It's a joke. But anyway, no two people are going to see it the same. So anyway, that's enough. Hey everybody, this is Grace, and I was just making a video for, I'm guessing, a different channel. I'll wind up putting these on different channels. But at the end of it, I made a little joke, and said it had a lot of puns in it. But I know that not many people are going to catch the pun, the main pun. And that is because, you know, it's something I learned back in university, and it was something I was focusing on. Okay, there were so many different, I'm not talking about which field of study, I'm talking just one particular thing. And I mean, there were some that would understand it, that earned that degree, and I don't run across anybody with my degrees, nobody in my field that I know of. in years, many years. And I do often feel like a fish out of water. Okay, I do feel that I've made videos in the past. These past August will be 12 years I've been making videos on my original channel, starting with that one. And during these years, I've said it before, I feel like the ugly duckling. Just haven't found my, my swans. Swans like me, that ugly duckling story. And it does get kind of lonesome. I have a hard time relating to a lot of people that I see online. And I would think people would have a tough time with me. Part of it is because of the health conditions that I have. The rare health condition I had caused a lot of brain fog. It caused itself one type of brain fog, and then another thing it causes is diabetes, and I had that kind of brain fog. And staying on one topic straight through is next to impossible. I'm on a medication finally for it. I've had this since I was at least 10 years old, but before then, since I was a child. And but 10 years old is when a lot of the symptoms started showing. Well, one major symptom showed up. But anyway, I'm just now finally on medication for it. Yeah, and I'm 62 years old. And I've only been on it for 16 days. So it has a ways to go. It takes time. It's over time. Things change. And as it said, things get worse before it gets better. So I know my other videos, people would have a hard time. They've never told me that, but sticking with me, because it's more like stream of consciousness kind of thing. And it's just rambling, some of it. And I switch topics fast, quickly. And that was part of the health condition. It's a physical health condition. It's not anything but physical, but it can cause these other problems. And so yeah, and I can see why people would have trouble with that. And I know nobody's been rude and told me, but I know it. And I also know that if I were actually on camera and they were looking at me in the face, then they wouldn't have as much problem either. Okay, it's just minor, just without me on camera. So it makes a big difference. But anyway, the whole feeling lately has been that, again, it comes around every once in a while. It doesn't stay, luckily, it doesn't stay too long. That feeling of just, when am I going to find, the ones like me? People like me, people who would catch my references, catch my, like I said, my puns, my jokes, whatever. They would catch it, and people who have the ability to, debate it. Not people who just think they know everything and they don't have anything to back it up, what they say. It's just that they feel that they know everything and everybody's supposed to listen to them. I've known too many people like that. So that falls under that kind of behavior itself. Trait, behavior, boy, my goodness. Falls under narcissism. I'm not saying they're narcissist. Just saying it's under there that they want that people to recognize them for something they don't have any credentials for. Just because they said so. It's kind of, nope, not going to do it. I didn't go to school. I was a career student over 20 years, undergraduate and graduate classes. The ones I could take graduate classes. You have to go, so much this, and then you go so much that. But that did not make sense. You have to get your bachelor's degree before you can start graduate school. The ones I've known, that's how they do it. Graduate school is like master's, PhD level classes. So once I reached that, I just continued to take those kinds of classes, master's, PhD. And I did that for a long while. Now, I didn't go to school all that like this thing on TV I saw today. But I didn't go all the years for just somebody who never attended, or even just attended a little bit, to say that they know more than I, okay, in that topic. And I want to be around people who have that kind of education. They don't have to have been a career student like myself. That was like, yeah, you're not going to find that, pretty much. But at least someone has some knowledge behind it. And that's not asking for too much, I don't think. To finally find some people that can understand it, so I don't have to like give a lecture or feel like I need to go into detail about why I'm thinking this or why I'm saying that. And I don't really I usually don't anyway. But it would be nice for people to have that kind of well, there's so many terms that just came to my head to call it. It's, I mean, I could look at the side of psychology classes, what they would have called it, and then the sociology classes, what they would have called it. But yeah, we all need to not be. That's the thing. That's the best way to put it. We all don't want to be ugly ducklings. You see how fast those. Speaking of, see how fast those clouds are moving. My goodness, they are moving pretty fast. Yeah, that's my squirrel moment. I haven't seen my squirrel in a few days, so my squirrels. Speaking of, anyway, see that's my kind of rambling. And but I don't know. I tell you, I do miss being at university. I really do. Being around people who can understand. I miss being in a classroom, whether it's teaching or well, it's educating, or if it's being educated. Seriously. And being around people who want to learn and don't want to say that they know everything without any foundation. So I miss that. And I know a lot of people can't relate to me, and they wouldn't find it at all interesting. And I do my videos, I've said this before, basically venting. It's my pressure release valve from things that I see that sometimes I just can't believe them. And I'm a sociologist, so social and behavioral psychologist, social and behavioral scientist. And of course I'm going to notice things. I would have wasted all those years of attending university if I didn't notice all these things at this point. And there's a lot to vent about. And I'm not the one that just hears it on TV and then repeats the same thing. I'm the one that actually spent the time learning how to do research and spend the time in the classes to learn all that I wanted to learn. Anyway, yeah, it's starting to get cloudy. I think it's supposed to start raining. I don't know what time it changed throughout the day, probably what time it would and all that. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up.